Thank you so much. Let's talk to Richie in Plymouth in Devon then. Morning, Richie.
How are you doing, Rachel?
I'm doing very well. Thanks ever so much for sharing your story with us. Tell us how jiu-jitsu changed your life.
It changed my life indeed, yeah. Well, I've been suffering from depression for about 6-7 years. My dad died about 10-11 years ago, and since then it's kind of been going a bit downhill. And I'd always been looking for a kind of an outlet that would help me to change my physical and my mental well-being, and was lucky enough to kind of fall into jiu-jitsu this time last year. My son had been doing it. My son is now 6. He'd been doing it for about 4 months before me. His instructor, Danny, who's black belt, he's one of the best in the country at what he does, if not the best, had been kind of nagging me for a couple of months to come along and try a class. I did what everybody did and tried to find excuses not to do it, ran out of excuses and went to a class, and since then I haven't looked back.
Jiu-jitsu, explain it for me. It's a form of martial art, isn't it?
It is a form of martial arts. The style I train in is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It was developed by Brazilian guy Helio Gracie, basically about helping smaller, weaker people defend themselves against a bigger opponent. And it, as I say, it kind of covers physically and mentally. It's massively challenging, but ultimately incredibly rewarding. I feel physically far more confident than I ever have. My son, as I say, who is now 6, has changed completely from a really shy, timid little boy to somebody who's incredibly confident and is very sure of himself in a very good way.
And how nervous were you going into that first class?
Really nervous, but it was the kind of the unexpected. I didn't know what to expect, really. You think of martial arts, and it's very easy to think of, a room full of big guys with big egos and big attitudes, and it was exactly the opposite of that. It was a group of like-minded people who wanted to learn, to help themselves to learn, to help other people to learn. There's absolutely zero ego, and 2 lessons in, I realised that, and I thought, you know what, this is for me. I've been incredibly lucky, as I say, to find a class that's just down the road from me. I've got pretty much the best instructor in the country, black belt, Danny McMillan, and it's just been amazing.
Yeah, and tell us about the improvement in your mental health. Why do you think that's happened?
I think, well, it's a bit of an obvious one at first, because I think everyone kind of can see the link between physical health and mental health, and how being physically fit and having exercise and increasing your endorphins can obviously help your mental health. But it's the obvious part of the exercise. It's the constant challenge. I'm constantly learning. I mean, my instructor has been doing it for 30 years. He says he's still learning every single day. So I'm never going to get to a stage where I can be complacent about it. I've got to, push myself every day. I've got to learn every day. I've got to take instruction from him and from other guys. And it's constantly challenging my brain. Every time I think I've learned something, he'll come over and say, actually, you're doing it slightly wrong. And I'm constantly on edge and learning more and more and more. It's brilliant.
That's really interesting. Let me ask our psychologist, Dr. Jessamy Hibbard, about that, because it's something that you also have written about. That actually the learning a new challenge, the actively engaging the brain, so we're not just going through the motions every day, is really important to our mental health.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and challenging yourself in that way, like Richie says, is really rewarding, and it's great for mental health because it gives you a purpose, it gives you a sense of fulfillment, and it also increases self-esteem and confidence as you see that actually you can do these things, that you push yourself and you can enjoy it, but learn and improve. And that's what's great for feeling good.
How much does it help going into a group activity as Richie is doing?
I think groups are really nice because you get to see that other people are the same as you. So not everybody can do it first time. Most people are a bit nervous when they start a new group. Some people will get one move, other people will get another move. But it's not just, right, I'm going to give it a go and I can do brilliantly. And when you're in a group, you see that everybody's, kind of learning together.
Richie, I wonder if there are people listening right now who might have mental health issues, who might have depression, and for them you say jiu-jitsu and they think, no, ridiculous, not for me. But is there any advice you could give them? It might not be that jiu-jitsu is the thing for them, but just to kind of get out, because it is a process of exposing yourself, and you might feel extremely vulnerable by doing into it and going into something new. What would you say, Richie?
Well, all I could say is that I was exactly that person. I was sat at home trying to think of excuses as to, well, I can't do this, I can't go to the gym, I can't go running, can't go to jiu-jitsu, and trying to find excuses. And then eventually I ran out of excuses and said, you know what's the worst that can happen? If I go to a class, if I don't like it, then I've not lost anything. But if I go and I do enjoy it, then, you know, who knows what can come out of it. I've made a great group of friends. I see them 2-3 times a week now in training. It's completely changed me physically. It's changed me mentally. You know, I say physically, I'm sat with a dislocated finger and a cut on my nose. But other than that, physically, it's injuries like that actually, you know, you kind of accept them as part of the course, and it's enjoyable pain, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's just do it, basically. It sounds cheesy and everything, but just try it and see what happens.
It must be amazing for your relationship with your son as well, the fact that you have a shared activity like that.
Oh, it is, yeah. He loves it. He's further along. He's got his second belt, so he thinks he's king of the world.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant for him, and it's great that we can train at home together. My youngest boy is he's 2.5, and he's going to start in a few weeks as well. So
sweet.
yeah, it'll be a family activity.
Brilliant.
My wife doesn't want to do it, but
well, she might be persuaded.
The bruises I come home with, I don't blame her, really.
Thank you so much. That's
No
Richie in Plymouth in Devon, who came on, talked about his depression, but he took up jiu-jitsu. What's the worst that can happen? I think, Dr. Jessamy Hibbert, what's the worst that can happen is quite a good mantra, isn't it?
It's brilliant.
If you're afraid of trying something new.
Yep. It's brilliant. And I think that's the way to go into it. It's not saying I'm going to do this forever or setting your goal in kind of stone that you feel you can never go back from it. It's just saying, okay, this is something I want to try out. I want to give it a go and going for it. And if you don't like it, then you've learnt something, you know, you've given it a go. It's not for you. You can try something else.
And
it's
what
not
about,
that you have to.
What about if you start off with all the good intentions, be it, I don't know, the kind of obvious one is, you know, giving up alcohol or reducing your sugar intake, and then you have a catastrophic collapse and it all falls apart, and then you say, to hell with it, I can't do this. How do you kind of pull yourself back from that and get back onto the right road again?
I think it's seeing mistakes as part of the process, that most people don't get things right first time, and making mistakes along the way is something to learn from rather than a failure. And if you see it in that way, then you can pick yourself up and try again with new knowledge of what didn't work and kind of use that to help you towards your goals.
Dr. Jessamy Hibbert is going to stay with us for a bit longer, so if you have any queries or questions, or if you want advice from her, you can give us a shout, 0500 909 693. But this morning we want to hear what New Year's resolutions have worked for you. Tell us about maybe the tiny ways that in January one year you sat up and you thought, right, I'm going to change my life and I'm going to do this and it's going to be different, and you stuck with it. We'd love to hear those stories this morning, 0500 909 693, or you can send us a text. We'll give you a buzz back, 85058 if you want to do that.